What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about XRP today. The purpose of this video is to go over the long-term prospects for XRP, where I expect it to be by the end of the cycle, and why that makes sense. We're going to use the XRP BTC chart to make sense out of these expectations. So if that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get into it, right? I expect that XRP could see a price as high as $40 or more by the end of this cycle. And I want to use the XRP BTC chart to help validate that claim, validate that assumption. So XRP versus US dollars is worth $2.47, but XRP to one Bitcoin is worth about 0.00002225 Bitcoins, right? It's worth a very small amount of Bitcoins. This chart here is not in an uptrend or a downtrend, which is pretty unique. Most cryptos over their lives, they're actually in a downtrend versus Bitcoin, but XRP has largely just kind of been in a sideways trend, right? We've just moved sideways. We have a point of support down here, a point of resistance up here. We go outside of those lines a little bit here and there, but largely we're just in this range. And within this range, we're also within another range. Right here, we're actually in a range that we've been in dating back to about, the midway point of 2019. We've been in this range now for quite some time. And it looks like we're on the brink of breaking out. That's my assumption here. You can see that throughout this range, we've found resistance and we moved down. We found resistance and we moved down. We moved down, we moved down, down, down every single time. Here, however, we've just been consolidating. We haven't really moved down at all. Yes, we found resistance here, but we've been consolidating. We've been doing something different here. Might we expect different results than what we saw throughout this range? Might we expect different results and break out to the upside? Now, when we break out, how high are we going to go is the question, right? You've been held down largely by this line since 2019. When you break out, are you going to see a small move? Are you going to see a little bit of a larger move like that? Or are you going to see something that resembles if this is back to 2019, something that resembles a 5 to 6 year consolidation phase breaking? I would think that you get a larger move, something that resembles the magnitude of this consolidation phase, something that resembles this or is at least more appropriate for this, right? It's not going to be a small little move. That'd be my expectation. So with that, where might we go? Where might we go? Here is a good point to find resistance at, right? Prior support, you might find resistance. You found resistance here. But again, 5 years of consolidation, are we going to just stop right there? Probably not. So what's the next area to maybe consider? Perhaps up here, where we have some monthly high closes, where we found some turbulence there. It looks like we found significance here twice before, but it's not really that significant going over here either. I think that this line, where we found resistance here, that was our all-time high for a while. We found closing resistance here, found resistance there, resistance here as well. I think this line might be more appropriate, but who am I to say? So let's just give it a range. Let's say that when XRP breaks out, it likely goes to this range, somewhere in here. Not exactly this line, not exactly this line, but something in this range. Maybe we fall just a little short of this line. Maybe we exceed this line a little bit, whatever, but something in this range I think is to be expected. We take this high here and put it at the low of this range, and you can see that the top line, the one that I think has more significance, actually lines up pretty well with the 786. It lines up very well with that 786, and it would make a lot of sense, taking away these white lines here, it would make a lot of sense that if you're breaking out, if you're coming up and you're seeing anything above the 618, you'd probably stop right there at the 786 or somewhere in this zone here. You wouldn't stop in between the 786 and the golden ratio there. So this line here doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It would make a lot more sense, I think, to go higher. Okay, but again, let's just leave it as a range. Okay, if XRP to BTC were to go up here, that would promote growth to the tune of something on a 267% to a 374% level of gains versus Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin moves up, XRP moves up that much more. If Bitcoin sees a 2x, XRP will do 3.6x more than that, is effectively what we're seeing, right? I want to input these numbers. I want to take these numbers and multiply them by the Bitcoin price and see what kind of XRP USD price we can expect to see. XRP BTC here at the low end of this range, what I think we likely don't stop at, we likely do exceed, is at 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, 8, 1, 4, 5. So if we do this Google calculator, let's just see. we do 4 zeros, 8145, right? And that's 4 zeros. Yeah, 8145. 8145. Multiply that by the current price of Bitcoin. Now, I don't think that when XRP BTC moves up, I don't think that Bitcoin will be at this price still. But again, whenever we take this current price, right, if XRP versus Bitcoin's moving up, likely what's happening is that XRP USD is moving up. But if XRP USD is moving up, Bitcoin likely won't be here. Bitcoin will likely be moving up as well. So what we're doing here by taking the current price is we're establishing a price that doesn't make sense to stop at, right? In other words, if anybody has this as a minimum target by the end of the cycle or anything less than this by the end of the cycle for XRP, it's flawed. It's flawed logic. So 111K, let's just say that, okay? We're at 111K now. $111,000, okay? That's a $9 price. Right there, by default, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but by my own analysis, anybody who makes the claim that XRP will not see a $9 price by the end of the cycle, I think has flawed logic. We will at least see a $9 price by the end of this cycle. Obviously, I think we're going to go a lot higher. I think we're going to see a $40 price or more. But again, just setting up the base of reason here, right? It's reasonable to expect that XRP will likely be worth more than $10, probably, right? Because again, Bitcoin will likely not be at 111K. It'll likely be sizably higher. So anything around $9 doesn't really make sense. Let's input where we think Bitcoin will be by the end of this cycle. Now, this is something that is up for debate, but I want to use a tool here and just try to make this part of the video as quick as possible because I don't want to spend too much time on this, right? We've all got things to do, and I want to make this digestible for everybody. There's a tool called the Pi Cycle Top Indicator, okay? The Pi Cycle Top Indicator. And every single cycle, this indicator has called the top perfectly. Literally perfectly to a T. It's when the red line crosses above the green line. When that happens, when we actually get the cross, you were so close here, but finally once you cross, that's where the top was in. That's where the top was in. Notice how the price on all of these cycle highs is well above the green line. Do you see where the green line is? Well, you're in the green line here, but then in that exponential growth phase, you get above the green line. It's once the red line crosses above the green line, that's the Pi cycle top. And it's called the cycle top every single cycle, perfectly, okay? You don't need to understand how it works, just understand that it does. And understand that we've always topped off above the green line. Well, the green line right now for Bitcoin is worth $200,000. I'm under the belief that by the end of this cycle, Bitcoin will see a price that is $500,000 or more. I believe that personally. And I think that after Bitcoin hits this price, it'll probably come down. And it's at this come down point, this like within a month of it topping off, that's when XRP will see its all-time high. So likely XRP will not top off when Bitcoin's worth 500,000, but when Bitcoin's worth slightly lesser prices, okay? But let's dial it back. Again, maybe you don't think like I do. Maybe Bitcoin won't see $500,000, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree there. But let's at least agree that every single cycle of Bitcoin's existence, the all-time high happened above the green line. Above the green line. Above the green line here, above the green line there, above the green line there, every single cycle. So, and pretty sizably above the green line too, I might add. Not just barely above. So would a price at, I don't know, 276,000, would that be appropriate? Can we say, let's say 250, would that be appropriate to say? As we move up higher, by the way, this green line is only going to increase in value as well. So it'll probably be, by the time we're up here, it'll probably be at that level anyways. But let's say 250, is that fair? Let's say Bitcoin's at $250,000 by the time XRP tops off. If we take this same price, okay, and instead multiply it by 250,000, and again, I feel like I'm being conservative here, right? We're talking about the line just barely above it. By the time we get up there, that green line's going to move up there. You see what I'm saying? So I think I'm being conservative here, but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a base of understanding, okay? Because if you come on here and you say XRP is going to $100, just sounds crazy. But if you build your way up to it, you're like, oh, okay. Oh, no, this actually makes it, it's easier. It's more digestible. I don't know. $20. Okay. We're being conservative, and we're making sense out of $20. We're being conservative in multiple ways, right? Being conservative with the Bitcoin price, in my assumption. We're also being conservative with the XRP to BTC price because we're using the bottom of the range. And again, we've already established that this line doesn't really make sense. You'd likely go to a higher level. And even then, a $20.36 price XRP makes sense. I then would say that any person right now who says XRP will not see a $20 price by the end of the cycle is delusional or probably not looking at all the data properly. We look at this from our cycle high back in 2017 or 2018, I'm sorry, to the cycle low in 2020. Our golden ratio is right there at $27. I think at this point, I'm going to make a statement, and I hope that we're all on board with this. At this point, I think it's safe to say that at a minimum, XRP investors could expect a $27 price, right? We're being conservative here. We're being conservative here. We're at points that don't really make sense in the price. $20 wouldn't really make sense to stop at. I think the only logical area around here that makes sense to stop would be $27 because we know sure as hell we're not stopping at $13, right? So this is the logical golden ratio area of attraction that would make sense for us to stop at. Can we all agree with that? $27 is a good minimum, okay? It's a good minimum for the price. That's the expectation there. So let's delete that. We'll delete these lines, and then again, we'll leave it off with this so far. Okay, so now let's ramp things up a little bit. Let's say XRP does go exactly to this 786, which from the high to the low of this overall move that we've seen, the 786 is right there. Let's say that's exactly what we do. We go up to now 3 zeros, 10722. Okay, we have to be very specific because these are 10722? Because these are big numbers we're dealing with. 10722. So that price there, okay, in Bitcoin, XRP to Bitcoin. Let's multiply it by the same price. Let's just say 250,000, okay? That's a $26 price. I think that's more appropriate. And then again, we look at $26 to the USD. Look at that. That's right there where our golden ratio was. It's quite literally from a high to a low. It's right there. Can't make it up. It's perfect. Right there, $27. It's literally perfect. That might be exactly where we top off by the end of the cycle. But again, I still think we're shooting low because we're not being fair to the Bitcoin price. Typically, we're not at the green line. If Bitcoin moves up here, the green line is going to move up as well. Typically, we're not at the green line. We're sizably higher. I could go into all my reasons as to why I think we'll see a $500,000 price, but let's just cut the crap and do the math, okay? This isn't a Bitcoin video, this is an XRP video, but I very much do believe, and I have a plethora of reasons to believe why we will see a $500,000 price by the end of the cycle. But again, I don't think XRP will top off when Bitcoin's at 500K. I think Bitcoin will top off first, and then within the month after Bitcoin tops off, XRP will top off. So likely we'll see Bitcoin below $500,000. We take our XRP BTC price of 3010772. We take that price. And now let's multiply it instead of by 500,000. Let's take a price that's a little bit lower. Let's say maybe 20% lower than 500,000. So 10% of 500,000 is 50,000, right? Right. So 20,000 or 20% might be 400,000. Maybe Bitcoin's at 400,000. Something like that. I wouldn't think that Bitcoin quite drops 20%. Let's actually see real quick. What do we do? I want to just see real quick. So Bitcoin topped here, altcoins rallied. A lot of altcoins topped off in May, where Bitcoin here topped off in April. We saw Bitcoin drop. No, it did drop. It dropped over 20% there. And then same thing here. I think we did drop over 20% as well. So yeah, we might drop 20% or more. It might even be fair to do the math based off of a number that's less than 400,000, but we're just going to do 400,000 because we hit the conservative targets. Now let's hit like the high end of the spectrum, okay? $400,000. That would give us a $42.88 price, $42.88. Well, we put this on here, $42.88, something like right around there, perfect. Instead of taking the last, this cycle high to the cycle low 2 cycles ago, I want to take the last cycle high and take the bear market low here, and we'll get a whole different level of fib extensions. Now, the 2272 is just below this line, but it's actually very common. Fun facts about the 2272, you wouldn't know this unless you have experience using fibs, like I do. I've been doing this for 10 years. You typically don't stop at the 2272, you actually wick just above it. Typically, that's what you do. You wick just above it. So actually, this $26 area, this $27 area, which lines up with the golden ratio of this high to low, it actually makes sense on 2 different fibs, right? That you'd find resistance here at the golden ratio and just above the 2272. There's a lot of sense to be made that XRP stops at $26 at a conservative level, right? like at a minimum. That's our minimum, right? That's not where I'm expecting we go. That's where I'm expecting that we go at least, okay? We take last cycle's high to the bear market low and look at this. That $42.88 target lines up perfectly. I can't make this up with the double golden extension, the 2618. It's perfect. It's literally right there in our faces, okay? This is where I believe XRP is going to go by the end of the cycle. We've established that $27 is the minimum. But for me personally, I would be surprised if we stopped at a price that was less than $40 personally. This makes more sense because now this was conservative. This is using like actual logic. I would say applied logic that makes sense, right? We're not even actually being that greedy. We're not being crazy with this, right? We're not taking XRP to BTC at higher levels. We're taking it at a level that makes absolute sense on all fronts, with the Bitcoin price, with the XRP price, all fronts, okay? At least in my opinion. That lines up with my cycle ending dynamics with Bitcoin and everything like that, right? Which we've done a bunch of analysis on that too. So $42 makes a lot of sense. Let's say that we're wrong about XRP BTC. Let's say that maybe instead of going to the 786, maybe you go to the next level. Perhaps this breakout's so big, we actually go all the way up to our 886. Let's input those levels. So that's at 3015215. 3 zeros. Now instead of being conservative, instead of being level-headed, we're going to be exuberant. We're going to be a little bit over the top and see how much. We're not going to be outside the realm of reality, but we're going to be on the side of our limitations. What could we see at the most by the end of the cycle? And again, that price versus Bitcoin is, I think, 30152. And to be fair, who knows? We could see new all-time highs versus Bitcoin. Maybe we're not even tapping into what the most is. Who am I to say that? I'm still trying to be grounded in reality, right? And I think the 886 is a perfect level to do that. 3015215. 3 zeros, let's see. 3015215. Okay? So this price, and again, let's multiply it by $400,000, okay? Let's do it by $400,000. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right there. That price gives us a $60 XRP, okay? $60 price here. It's pretty close. Hold on real quick, you guys. I got to talk to my daughter. She's... Okay. She's about to start making a bunch of noise, and I'm like, please don't do that. Not in the middle of the video. $60 is in this area here, which I have to admit, I don't really see us stopping at $60. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, if we take last cycle or 2 cycles ago's high, we put it at the bear market low there. It's, I guess, right there at the 886, the 1886. It's pretty close, but it's still $67 versus $60. That's a bit of a difference, right? And I think we'd more likely see something at $70 or more. Perhaps we're not looking at this right? A $60 price might not make sense. Maybe we're not looking at this right. So let's use that same input. And instead of a $400,000 price, again, we're being a little bit exuberant, still in reality, but a little bit more, a little bit reaching more. So with XRP potentially reaching this by the end of the cycle, maybe it goes outside my expectations of what we'd see XRP BTC achieve. Maybe Bitcoin goes outside my expectations as well. Let's say it's not at a $500,000 price for the top. Let's say it's at $600,000 or more. And then maybe Bitcoin's not at a $400,000 price. Maybe by the time XRP tops off, it's at a, let's say, I don't want to say 500,000 because again, I think we're getting outside the realm of reality there. By the time XRP tops off, I want to say, let's say a 460,000. I want to go somewhere between 480 and 450. That's just me personally. Let's just say 460,000. If Bitcoin is at $460,000, XRP would be right there at $70, which again, we're reaching here a little bit, but I think $70, we can make sense out of that. We can at least make sense out of something that's around $70. Again, maybe we're not exactly accurate with this. Maybe we're not exactly accurate with this, but we get levels here now. We can delete it all. We get some levels that with the fibs, they all line up with the fibs to some degree, and with the price versus Bitcoin, we get these levels here by the end of the cycle, which suggests that XRP at a bare minimum, it's laughable to suggest that it will be anywhere less than a $26 price. And I think to the equal extent, it's laughable to suggest that it will be anywhere above a $73 price by the end of this cycle. To me, it makes the most sense that XRP is likely going to be somewhere in between these levels here. And the most likely area to achieve would likely be a $42, $43, $45 price. Maybe not exactly to a T, but something around there. That implies that XRP has 17x potential between now and the end of the cycle. I very much believe that's what we're going to see. Something between a 17x and a 29x move. That's my expectation personally. I don't have anything else that I want to say. I just wanted to get on here and do the long-term stuff. We can do the short-term stuff real quick if some of you are here for that and you've waited all this time. What I will say is XRP on the 1 hour time frame looks like it wants to come down a little bit right now. We were expecting that we would actually from this zone see a higher high, and maybe we still do, maybe I'm wrong, but don't be scared if we take out this low. Don't be scared if we do return back to that $2.30, $2.40 level. We might see that, okay? Things are taking a little bit of a turn with Bitcoin and the rest of the market. It's very possible that we see that happen. The RSI looks weak, the stochastics look weak, and so does the MACD. The MACD is actually rejecting the zero, so this implies lower prices. If we see lower prices, my expectation would not be that we stop here, but that we probably go lower. That'd be my expectation. Looking at the 4 hour time frame here, rejecting here, looking bearish, right? You were supposed to continue, but you didn't. So finding resistance here, I do think that we'll see prices below $2.30 over the next couple of days. That's my assumption. Maybe over the weekend we chill and then next week we come back. But the stochastics are pointed down now, not looking good, suggesting that we go lower. In the daily time frame too, what we'd look for here is bullish divergence, and we only get that if we close a day. We close a day below 237. So if you don't think we're going below 230, that's fine. We can agree to disagree, but at least accept that we probably do see prices below 240. I think we'll go below 230 as well. Time will tell. It should happen between today, tomorrow, or the next day. That's my expectation. Afterwards, we're going to continue to rally. XRP will see fantastic growth, and this is all just a little hiccup. It's a little sidewinding tail on our inevitable journey to the levels of $40 to $70 by the end of the cycle, $27 at a minimum. I don't have anything else for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, hit the like button. Thank you all for being here. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye.